Kevin Stefanski didn't waste time naming threats. Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, stacked boxes, broken run fits. It's all on the table. He broke down how opposing defenses are loading the line to suffocate the Browns' offense and daring them to beat them through the air. Stefanski's response? Use receivers to block, attack the soft spots, and stretch the field when safeties creep forward. But in the same breath, he circled back to Shedeur Sanders, not for his arm, but his mental composure under this shifting pressure. The young quarterback, still working his way back after a concussion, is expected to read and respond with clarity most veterans haven't mastered. It's a pivotal week where one misread can change the game. Stefanski made it clear that this isn't just about getting healthy or being technically sound.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
It's about mental sharpness. Against Buffalo's shifting looks and blitz disguise, every decision has consequences. Sanders, despite his youth, is expected to shoulder part of that weight. And Stefanski, by so plainly, is setting the tone for accountability across the board. Kevin Stefanski didn't sugarcoat anything. Standing in front of reporters ahead of the Browns' showdown with the Buffalo Bills, he looked every bit the coach with something to prove. And instead of delivering vague coach speak, he came out swinging. When asked about Shedeur Sanders' future with the team, Stefanski didn't deflect. He didn't pivot to cliches. He answered with something far more rare in today's NFL, brutal honesty. It wasn't a takedown. It wasn't a praise fest either. Stefanski acknowledged the good, the bad, and the things that flat out need work. He made it clear, Sanders has potential, but he's not exempt from expectations. If anything, being a rookie just makes the spotlight burn hotter. Stefanski explained that while Sanders has shown impressive mental toughness, consistency has to come next. That wasn't the only fire Stefanski walked into. The upcoming face-off against Josh Allen meant he had to address what it's like preparing for one of the most unpredictable quarterbacks in the league. He didn't hold back. According to Stefanski, Allen has no real weakness. Whether he's sticking to the script or improvising out a structure, Allen is always a threat. Strong arm, sharp reads, and just as dangerous on his feet. He checks every box. And Stefanski didn't act like they had it all figured out. He flat out said Allen was hard to stop. He emphasized that the defense would need total discipline. Every man in the right spot, every assignment executed. There was no talk of gimmicks. No fake confidence. Just a clear understanding that stopping Allen requires a near-flawless. Then came Dalvin Cook. The Vikings back may not be getting top billing this week, but Stefanski wasn't sleeping on him. He called Cook one of the most complete backs in football. Quick through the hole, deadly on the edge, and smart enough to find the smallest crease. Stefanski made it clear this wasn't going to be just about Allen. Containing Cook was equally critical. Stopping the run wasn't just about one guy doing hero work. Stefanski said it would take all 11. It's a theme he kept returning to: discipline, unity, and relentless effort. According to him, every player on the field had a role in shutting it down. It wasn't just the defensive line's job or the linebacker's burden. Everyone had to show up. And Stefanski didn't act like that's been going smoothly. He was transparent about the Browns' recent struggles with stacked boxes. Defenses loading the line, daring them to beat them through the air. That's been a problem. But Stefanski didn't lay blame. He laid out solutions. He pointed to wide receiver blocking and taking advantage of the gaps created when defenses bring safeties up. There's a chess match element to it. If they're going to load the box, you have to make them pay through the air. Stefanski said the team's been focusing on exploiting those exact spaces, especially over the middle, where defenders are pulled out of coverage. Of course, there's still the matter of Myles Garrett, who's nearing a record milestone. Stefanski was asked about it, but didn't spend much time on the individual achievement. His response was simple. Garrett isn't concerned with stats. He's concerned with winning. Stefanski praised him for staying focused on his job, one snap at a time. He did admit that it's important to celebrate milestones when they come, but not at the expense of game prep. That balance, acknowledging greatness without losing focus, is something Stefanski believes this team handles well. He credited Garrett with being the kind of player who sets the tone without needing the spotlight. When it came back to Shedeur Sanders, Stefanski's tone shifted slightly. It was clear he's rooting for him. He spoke about the concussion protocol and how Sanders had been recovering, not just physically, but mentally. That part, Stefanski said, might be even more important. He talked about how the rookie responded after some tough outings. No panic. No sulking. Just work. Stefanski noted that Sanders keeps showing up with the same attitude, whether he's coming off a win or a rough game. That resilience, he said, is what gives him a shot in this league. Still, resilience alone isn't enough. Stefanski made that clear too. He said the next step for Sanders was turning that mental toughness into consistent execution. The flashes are there, good reads, confident throws, but the misses can't keep piling up. Not in this league. It wasn't a knock. It was a challenge. Stefanski's message was that talent opens the door, but reliability keeps you in the room. The coaching staff is working closely with Sanders, trying to speed up the learning curve, but Stefanski stressed that the player has to meet them halfway. With the Bills on deck, Stefanski talked about the overall game plan. He mentioned how practice this week would be crucial, especially with some players returning from injury. Execution, he said, would be everything. And he wasn't just talking about game day. He meant every rep leading up to it. He noted that schemes can only do so much. Without proper execution, even the best playbook is useless. He said the staff was focused on fixing issues from previous games, especially missed tackles and blown assignments on special teams. Those can't happen against Buffalo. Not if you want to stay competitive. There was a moment when Stefanski was asked directly about Sanders' long-term potential. And this is where he was most honest. He said Sanders has what it takes, but the path won't be easy. There are no guarantees in the NFL. Just because someone shows promise doesn't mean they'll turn the corner. Stefanski explained that it all comes down to growth. Not just learning the playbook, but learning how to be a pro. Dealing with media pressure, film study, bouncing back after mistakes. It's a lot. And for rookies, it can be overwhelming. But Stefanski said Sanders has the right mindset to take it on. And Shedeur Sanders. Wrapping up, Stefanski brought the focus back to the team. He said that milestones, recovery timelines, and future potential all take a back seat to one thing: execution. Whether it's Sanders, Garrett, or any other player, the message is the same. Do your job, every play, every week. He acknowledged how much noise there is, talk shows, social media, endless speculation, but said that none of it matters if the team doesn't perform on Sunday. And when it comes to Sanders, he made one thing clear. The team believes in him, but belief isn't enough. It's up to Sanders to earn it every single snap. As kickoff against Buffalo neared, all eyes turned to Sanders. He was cleared to play after concussion protocol, but Stefanski didn't make any guarantees. He said Sanders would have to earn his reps during the week. And earn them he did. By Friday, Stefanski confirmed he was taking first-team snaps. That decision raised eyebrows. Sanders hadn't been flawless in recent games, far from it. But Stefanski stuck to his word. The kid shows up, stays even-keeled, and keeps improving. He said the staff saw enough in practice to trust him again. Not a reward, not a gamble, just football. Post-game interview. When the game wrapped, the press wasted no time. Stefanski walked into the post-game presser calm but blunt. Sanders hadn't put up flashy numbers, but he held his own. Stefanski called it a step in the right direction, then pivoted to the bigger picture. He praised the offensive line's effort and the receiver's route discipline, emphasizing that it's never just one guy. Still, he didn't hide from the facts. He admitted that Sanders missed a few key throws, and acknowledged the rookie still had moments where the speed of the game overwhelmed him. But Stefanski emphasized that these are the reps that matter, the gritty ones where mistakes are followed by. Meanwhile, Garrett's performance was another storyline altogether. He got his sack, broke the record, and still, when asked about it after the game, he brushed it off. Stefanski wasn't surprised. He told reporters that Garrett's mentality has always been to dominate, not to dwell. He said Garrett's focus is contagious. That when your star player is more concerned about collapsing pockets than collecting headlines, the rest of the locker room takes notice. Stefanski also highlighted Garrett's leadership, especially around younger players like Sanders, who benefit from that example of controlled excellence. Press conference. Sanders himself faced the media later that night. He didn't dodge any questions. He acknowledged the pressure, the missed reads, and the weight of expectation. But he spoke clearly. No excuses. Just ownership. He said he knew where he fell short and was already thinking about the next week. Stefanski had mentioned that quality earlier, how Sanders doesn't get rattled. And that was on full display. The moment didn't seem too big for him, even after a close loss. He didn't crack under the spotlight. And for a rookie quarterback, that matters just as much as a stat line. And Andrew Berry. Behind the scenes, the conversations were more layered. Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry reportedly spent significant time evaluating Sanders' development. The goal wasn't just week-to-week performance. It was about whether he was progressing at a rate that justified long-term investment. Sources close to the team said Berry appreciated Stefanski's candor about the situation. No sugarcoating, just raw feedback. Sanders was improving, yes, but the leash wasn't endless. The Browns had too much on the line to wait around. The coaching staff would continue to support him, but he had to meet the moment. From the Browns-Vikings matchup offered some insight into the staff's confidence. Sanders had made adjustments. His footwork was cleaner, his read sharper. He was still taking hits, but his composure held. Stefanski credited the improvement to better practice habits, and Sanders spending more time in the film room. He said that even when Sanders had bad stretches in the game, he never unraveled. There was no panic in the huddle, no drop in intensity. That type of poise is what the team is banking on, that the mental side of Sanders' game will continue to anchor his development. One of Sanders' quarterback room peers was asked about the rookie's growth. His response was simple: he absorbs everything. Gabriel said that Sanders listens more than he talks, always asking questions and following up with coaches after practice. Gabriel even mentioned how Sanders took ownership of a busted coverage read from the Vikings game. Instead of shrugging it off, he sat with the receivers and reworked the route timing on his own time. That kind of initiative doesn't show up in box scores, but it's exactly the kind of behavior coaches love to see. Back in his weekly availability, Stefanski doubled down on his earlier comments. He made it clear: progress is mandatory, not optional. The team wasn't just developing Sanders to be functional. They were developing him to win. Stefanski said that meant taking a hard look at every snap and deciding what's working and what's not. He explained that the coaching staff had adjusted some of their offensive schemes to better suit Sanders' strengths: shorter throws, quicker reads, more motion pre-snap to give him defensive clues. But Stefanski emphasized that even tailored schemes require execution. And that's where he wants to see Sanders level up. Watching Sanders in the past few games paints a mixed picture. There are beautiful throws, deep sideline completions, tight window darts. But there are also blown plays, missed audibles, and holding onto the ball too long. Stefanski has said publicly that these ups and downs are expected, but only to a point. He mentioned that in today's NFL, you don't get the luxury of extended development time. Teams need results quickly. Stefanski said the leash isn't about pressure, it's about pace. Sanders is being coached to accelerate everything: his reads, his timing, and his decisions under duress. Against Miami, that urgency was tested again. The Dolphins' defense threw heavy pressure early, and Sanders had to react. Stefanski praised his pocket movement, noting that while Sanders took a few sacks, he also avoided several worse outcomes by scrambling smart. The game wasn't perfect, far from it. But Stefanski saw signs. He talked about Sanders recognizing blitz packages faster and knowing when to get rid of the ball. He said those small steps are what turn into big leaps. And in the NFL, those leaps separate the guys who make it from the ones who just flash. In Browns versus Dolphins match, that game against the Dolphins was a real test. Sanders lined up against one of the league's faster defenses, and from the start, the pocket was collapsing quicker than usual. He didn't panic. On the first drive, he took a hit but got right back up. No flinch, no frustration. Stefanski noticed. Sanders completed several short throws under pressure, managing the tempo and avoiding risky plays. It wasn't flashy, but it was steady. Stefanski called it progress under duress, something, he says, young quarterbacks have to earn the hard way. The pressure, both literal and figurative, was there the entire game, and Sanders never folded. In Browns versus Dolphins match, Stefanski's demeanor on the sideline didn't change much, but post-game, he opened up about what he saw. He said Sanders executed the game plan better than people realized. According to him, the play-action reads, the decision-making on checkdowns, and the situational awareness were all noticeable steps forward. Still, he admitted the offense needs more production. Stefanski stressed that while they're building Sanders' confidence, they can't stall out in the red zone. Execution has to match poise. The Browns had left points on the board, and Stefanski said that's the next hurdle for Sanders, finishing drives, not just surviving them. It was a far cry from Sanders' first preseason outing, where the speed of the game clearly caught him off guard. Back then, he held the ball too long, missed his hot reads, and struggled with blitz recognition. Stefanski didn't overreact. Instead, he framed it as necessary exposure. Now, in contrast, Sanders was identifying disguised coverages and moving defenders with his eyes. The growth wasn't just mechanical, it was mental. That's exactly what Stefanski had emphasized in his previous interviews: intelligence, toughness, and incremental development. Post-game interview. After Miami, Stefanski was again asked if Sanders was the long-term solution. His answer was firm. He's earning it, Stefanski said. Not a guarantee, not a dismissal. Just the truth. He explained that the NFL doesn't hand out futures based on raw talent. It rewards performance and consistency. He said Sanders is tracking the right way, but there's more work to do. Stefanski doubled down on how every game is a proving ground. He said Sanders' ability to bounce back after setbacks was promising, but the goal is to get to the point where those setbacks happen less often. Then came the Raiders. A physical game with a lot on the line. Stefanski's game plan was clear: protect Sanders early, get the run game going, and keep the Raiders' pass rush honest. And for the most part, it worked. Sanders hit some key throws, including a deep shot down the seam that kept the defense off balance. But it wasn't perfect. A late-game misread almost turned into a pick-six. Stefanski didn't sugarcoat it afterward. He said those are the moments that define quarterbacks. The play didn't cost them the game, but Stefanski said it has to be a learning moment, not just for Sanders, but for the whole offensive unit. And Andrew Berry. That kind of error sparks front office conversations. Stefanski and Berry reportedly met post-game to break down Sanders' tape in real time. No waiting until Tuesday. According to team sources, Berry asked for specifics. Was Sanders improving in pre-snap reads or just reacting? Was he gaining command of the huddle or still leaning too much on the sidelines? Stefanski pointed to growth in leadership. Teammates were responding to Sanders. Veterans on the line were backing him. Berry took that seriously. In a league where locker room dynamics matter as much as stats, Sanders was starting to win over both. Sanders stood in front of the mic again that week and owned his mistakes. The near pick against the Raiders? On me, he said. And then he broke it down: the route miscommunication, the coverage look, and where he went wrong. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. He also gave credit to Stefanski and his position coach for building trust, even after mistakes. He said knowing they still believe in him makes it easier to reset and play with confidence. The growth in his demeanor was visible. Less guarded, more grounded. Stefanski had said from the beginning, that's the foundation. Kevin Stefanski. In his next presser, Stefanski returned to a key point. Coaching doesn't end after the whistle. He said every throw Sanders makes in practice is evaluated. Every correction is tracked. Stefanski even mentioned that they've started adjusting meeting formats, shorter, more focused feedback, to better fit how Sanders processes information. That adaptation isn't something every staff does. But Stefanski said that's the job: meet the player where they are, then push them forward. He made it clear this isn't about coddling. It's about optimizing. And for Sanders, that means getting more comfortable with faster decisions and more complex game photos. Garrett's presence loomed large as always, and Stefanski made sure to tie it back to team culture. He said when Sanders sees a guy like Garrett dominate and still be the first one in and last one out, it sets a tone. Stefanski called Garrett the culture anchor, and said rookies who model that behavior give themselves the best shot at longevity. Sanders has been watching. Stefanski confirmed that he's seen Sanders shadow veterans after practice, study film with defensive backs to better understand their tendencies, and ask questions most rookies avoid. Stefanski said that level of hunger isn't normal, and that's exactly why it stands out. The Ravens game is circled on every Browns calendar, but for Stefanski, it's a measuring stick. He said Baltimore brings out flaws. If you have gaps, they'll expose them. And that includes quarterback play. Stefanski said this game would be the biggest challenge yet for Sanders. The plan? Keep it clean, stay out of third and long, and force the defense to respect both the run and pass. Stefanski said the staff worked hard to build a game plan around Sanders' strengths, while still expecting him to stretch. The message to the team was clear: elevate or get left behind. In Browns versus Ravens match, game day against the Ravens arrived, and everything Stefanski had warned about unfolded in real time. Baltimore's defense came out aggressive: exotic blitzes, disguised coverage, relentless pressure. And still, Sanders didn't flinch. He threw a strike on third down to start the drive and followed it with a gutsy scramble to move the chains. But it wasn't all clean. A tipped ball turned into an interception near the red zone. Stefanski didn't yank him. Instead, he let Sanders play through it. That trust was telling. And in the fourth quarter, down by 10, Sanders led a drive that nearly turned the game. He hit tight windows, made smart decisions, and proved, again, that he can handle the moment, even when it's chaotic. Stefanski said afterward that Sanders was starting to stack real growth. Not hype, not projections, actual in-game development. The mental toughness, the execution, the poise, these are the building blocks. Stefanski's brutally honest stance hadn't changed. The job isn't handed to you. You take it one rep at a time. So, what does all this mean for Sanders' future in Cleveland? It means he's not just surviving. He's starting to compete. Stefanski hasn't declared him the long-term guy, but he's giving him every chance to become one. And right now, that says more than words ever could. If you're watching this and you've got thoughts about whether Shedeur Sanders is that guy for the Browns, drop your take in the comments. And if you're into real-deal football breakdowns without the fluff, hit that like button, share with someone who needs to see it, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Because this rookie ride, it's just getting started.